You have a statement, Mr. Mitchell? No statement from Mr. Mitchell.
I'm often asked by people, you know, if somebody wants to become a world champion, what do they do? And the very first bit of advice I give them is forget it. I say, you don't become a world champion. It's in your DNA. In 1999, there was a race, there was a quest for what they called the Holy Grail of video games. Whoever could do a perfect game on Pac-Man, that start to finish, never miss a dot, never miss an energizer, never miss a prize, never miss a blue man. 256 screens, then you would achieve a perfect game. And on July 3rd, after 6 hours of play, and not losing a single man, became the first person that ever did a perfect game on Pac-Man. In the early 1980s, video games were all the rage. I mean, arcades were everywhere. Whenever we went somewhere, it was the equivalent of a rock band showing up. Imagine the publicity of the greatest obsession in the world at the time, video games. And supposedly the best players in the world were coming. They were coming to your town. It was something where there were groupies. It was incredible. It was everywhere I went. I'll walk somewhere. People say, hey, Pac-Man. I'll say, that's Mr. Pac-Man to you. It brought me more media attention than I had imagined. I don't think there was a network that didn't call me.
After 19 years, a video arcade classic has finally been conquered.
I always wanted to do something that was unparalleled, something unequivocal. I was asked by a reporter, so have you done it? Not yet.
And he could just go on and on and on and on for a long time. And I think another time we were somewhere and he put a quarter in the machine and he played forever, and I went back and I said, you're on the same quarter? And he said, no. That's all it takes is a quarter.
No, I said, I'm not on the same quarter, I'm on the same man. Ricky's was actually built in 1955. My father acquired it in 1974. We're here 7 days a week. The whole family's involved in the business, and it's done real good for us. It's also been a blessing to me in video games because this is where I got my start. Pac-Man carved out a part of my personality that strived for perfection, that strived to be the absolute best that I could possibly be. I had to look at myself and I had to realize very unhappily that I couldn't just play video games forever, that I had to do something else. Our family business was the restaurants, it was chicken wings, it was hot sauce, and that same obsession that I had in the world of video games now transcended over into the business world. I became obsessed with the idea that I would know more about chicken wings, more about hot sauce than anybody in the world. I lived and breathed it every day, just like I did video games. When I'm in the store, I'm always looking at the placement on the shelf. It's sort of a cruel and vicious world. It's like the video game world. There's always somebody who's trying to bump you aside, and you sort of fight fire with fire. You go in and you push for a little more space for yourself, and you sort of push the guy around a little, and unfortunately when your back is turned, he's doing the same thing to you. It's a cat fight to stay on top. I never realized that real work in the world and video game work, they'd be so similar, or at least similar in nature. I always tell myself that if I can do in the business world what I can do in the arcade, then the situation will always go our way. Shortly after doing the perfect game, I sort of stewed in my mind, and I wondered what it was or what I would do that's gonna had to begin to come up with something in my mind in a video game world that would be bigger and greater, that would draw more attention, more fame. I haven't shared the fact that I'm preparing for something with very many people. What it is I actually plan on doing, I haven't shared with anybody. I haven't even talked in my sleep about it. But what it is that I'm going to do will be a final chapter in the world of competitive video game playing for me. And if it happens, the world will know more than they knew with the perfect Pac-Man game. We'll see. If he hit it over the wall, it would have just been another accomplishment. What made it different was he pointed at the wall. Well, that's what I was out to do then. And it was risky.
If you're in the game, then starts the word.
Billy Mitchell, video game player of the century. It's rather simple. If you want to get a perfect game, you walk up, you put your quarter in, you press start, you eat every dot, you eat every prize, every energizer, and on every energizer you got to get all 4 guys every time. If you miss a guy, you're done. If you miss a prize, you're done. You miss anything, you're done. You die 1 time, you're done.
Just to give you an idea, watch how fast they turn back. And you got to get all 4.
256 boards over many hours, never dying once, never missing a point. I had all kinds of people, oh, you can't do it. Oh, no one's ever done that. There's no way you can do that. Bet you can't. I'd say don't bet your life.
I'm sorry, I'm just showing off here.
Bill Mitchell is the Jerry Rice or the Michael Jordan of all the video game players.
Man, he's phenomenal.
Very loud, very outspoken, very confrontational.
And one of the lines he would always say to me is, Steve, when I met you, I was but the learner, but now I am the master.
Mitchell walks into an arcade, you know, everything stops. There's electricity around Billy Mitchell. Everybody wants to crowd around him. Everybody wants to see him.
You know, everything about him is perfect. You know, Billy is just that person, you know, he wants to represent.
If you could hack into the machine and program it to play itself, you couldn't even program it that well.
There's a glamour to Billy. There's a specialness to Billy. He was the first. He was the first great player.
The fact of the matter is, Bill is the best classic arcade gamer of our era.
It's actually carved a part of my personality that benefits me every day. I mean, a burning passion never to settle for what I have. In my business, in my family, that's what competitive gaming has done for me.
He's a winner. Billy Mitchell is absolutely a winner.
It's sort of like being in a maze. But everything you see is actually sauce. The all-around most seasoned person in the hot sauce chicken wing industry, yeah, for sure, me. There's the production end of it. There's the preparation. When there's the sales end of it, there's not somebody who encompasses all of those areas like me that I've ever met.
He sells his hot sauce. He sells himself.
Because he's so charming and such a good ambassador for all gaming, because he's positive. There's no reason, in my opinion, why Billy Mitchell couldn't end up on a Wheaties box someday.
The video arcade classic has finally been conquered. On July 4th at a New Hampshire arcade, 34-year-old Billy Mitchell became the first person to master Pac-Man by recording the first ever perfect game.
Mr. Nakamura, who's the father of Pac-Man, he presented me with an award for Pac-Man for having done the world's first perfect game. So sometimes when I'm with someone, oh, you think you know more about the games than the people who made them? Yeah, they told me I do.
It's a very interesting experience to see the whole video game hobby become so big that they're now stars like Billy.
I'd be lying to you if I told you it wasn't fun. I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't enjoy it.
Look at him. He sticks out like a sore thumb. He's got, what is this? What do they call that hairdo?
Business up front, party in the back?
He has this hairdo like a country western singer. What do they call those?
Short on top and long in back?
That's a mullet.
A mullet?
It's called a mullet.
The mullet.
Mullets rock.
So he's very, very noticeable.
Of course I was famous.
Through every board, getting every dot, every energizer, every ghost that's applicable to reach to the final 256 screen without dying, that's impressive in its own right.
The success of this was not just because someone got a perfect Pac-Man score, but because Billy Mitchell got a perfect Pac-Man score.
The first time Chris and I met, I was playing Miss Pac-Man, and he was looking over my shoulder. I finished 5 boards. He says, wow. He sat down next to me, he put a quarter in, and bang, he hit 77-6 on the first shot. It's in your DNA. You have it or you don't. He is every reason why I am the video game champion. Everything I've done, I owe to him. If I hadn't met him, if we hadn't pushed each other, I would not have achieved what I've achieved. Similar to Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa in the Home Run Derby. This pattern is called Tunnel Terror. It's called that because it's considered the safest pattern. It's 56 seconds long. In 28 of the 56 seconds, the 3 priority monsters are in the tunnel. As long as they're in the tunnel, they can't do you any harm. That's exactly 1/2 of the maze. They get put in the tunnel here, and they just continually get pushed back and forth. The only reason why they're let out of the tunnel for any period of time is when we have to get the key in the center of the screen. The key in the center of the screen we need simply because we need the points. Otherwise, we just keep them locked in the tunnel. So we got the key, and now we're going to send them back in the tunnel. Again, they spend their life in the tunnel. Watch right here. Don't blink, you'll miss it.
What? How is that even possible?
What do you mean how? Because I'm Billy Mitchell.
Yes!
Video games are meant to be played in a competitive environment, under pressure, organized, where you have to perform literally on demand. And when you do that, you have far more credibility than someone who says, oh, I did that last week. No matter how good you play tennis, no matter how good you play golf, if you don't play when you have to play, if you don't play when the pressure's on, you're really not good enough. When you want to put a score up and you want to have a title of world champion, you're competing against everybody in the world. You want a title for your own living room? Man, I'll send you that title. Your own arcade? Man, I'll sign it and I'll make up the paper and I'll send you a plaque. You want your name in the Guinness Book of World Records? You have to do that? You have to. I got to. There's a lot of scores I've gotten. When the time comes and the pressure's that hard, I'll have to do it in a public forum, as I always have. There'll always be the argument that video games are meant to be played for fun. Believe me, some of it's a lot of fun. Video games are meant to be played at home, relaxing, on a couch, amongst friends, and they are, and that's fun. But competitive gaming, when you want to attach your name to a world record, when you want your name written into history, you have to pay the price.
Spring of 1982, Walter came out with a poster of high scores. When my score of 450,000 was reported as having been beaten by somebody, I think from Leo Daniels' arcade, I should have said, Walter, I'll believe it when I see it. What I did instead was, I lied.
It was the first time 2 world-class players went head-to-head for a competition was Life magazine.
Without a doubt, I met players that were amongst the best in the world, and maybe even would say or do whatever they could to make people believe they were the best in the world.
Well, at that time, he was the world record holder on Centipede. But also at that time, he's the world record holder on Donkey Kong. But we didn't know that because someone else was invited there from Kansas City, who, because of a claim they had made, it was presumed that they were the Donkey Kong champion.
Well, I guess I had the attitude, particularly on Donkey Kong, that nobody could beat me, period. And I wouldn't tolerate anybody telling me they could. But the time I knew that I was right was when I was at Life magazine.
It was very interesting at that time, if I can remember back, like, you know, somebody would be getting close to a record and it was almost like everybody had stopped. boy, how could this guy get 3 million points in Donkey Kong? Like, I'm having trouble getting 600,000 and 700,000 points.
In front of what we believed was the 20 best players in the world, I played him a game of Donkey Kong. He got 190,000 in his game.
After watching him not being able to get over 250 to 300,000 points, which was 10% of his score that he claimed to have,
I got 849,000 points on my first guy. That was the end of the questions.
And I just felt like the wind had been taken out of my sails. I felt sucker punched.
I forever put him in his place. My gameplay absolutely intimidated him.
In front of the 19 top players in the nation, actually North America, he did the highest Donkey Kong score possible and also found out that the game ends on the 22nd board.
He shellacked me. He shellacked me.
Basically, he walked away with his head down and humbled, and that brought him to the truth, and from there we worked together.
Well, the Bible, Proverbs says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Bill made me a better person, and did so by basically making me confess.
I've pointed out to Steve that he's the person he is today because he came under the wrath of Bill Mitchell. I had somebody draw an analogy for me once that I always remembered. The top French pilot in World War I shot down 24 enemy planes. The top American pilot, you don't know his name, do you? Nobody does, but it's Eddie Rickenbacker. Shot down 26 enemy planes. The German ace, the Red Baron, everyone knows who the Red Baron is. That's because he shot down 87 enemy planes. I mean, he was the best. There's a level of difference between people, and it translates into some games. Somebody tells me today they got a high score in a game. I say, yeah, how much did it cost you? If I have all this good fortune, if everything's rolling my way, if all these balls have bounced in my favor, there's some poor bastard out there who's getting the screws put to him.
Numerous classic games that all have something in common. They have an end to the gameplay.
There's not quite enough memory for the final board.
And it's called a kill screen because basically there's no way to finish the level. That some sort of random data or code inside the program ends up getting used for what you see on the screen. Donkey Kong is really strange in that it actually lets you play the kill screen level for maybe 5 seconds or so. Everything looks normal, and then suddenly Mario just up and dies on you.
The people who could get, besides myself, that have been seen getting to the end of Donkey Kong. Gee, now that I think about it, I don't think anybody has. Oh, Billy Mitchell always has a plan.
He likes to keep secrets. He likes surprising people. He likes people seeing him do the unexpected and say, "Oh boy, I didn't realize you were going to do something like that, Bill." That's how he is.
It's annoying when somebody's ahead of you. You know, when you're not the lead dog, the view doesn't change. And I always wanted the view, so. I often have people ask me what my handle is, what my 3 initials are. I mean, come on. I tell people, look at me. What do you think my 3 initials were? If you don't know, you're not looking hard enough. USA. So I had Latin friends and I had Canadian friends, and I always had to keep the Americans on top. I help a lot of people who want to go to contests. When I look at different people who are my favorites, who I'd want to help, she's at the top of the list. Surprise! And at the ripe age of 80, she's going to go to Fun Spot, and she's going to set a world record on Cubert.
Okay.
That's the challenge.
All right.
Is it agreed?
Yeah.
I always wanted to do something absolutely unequivocal, but tremendous responsibilities keep pulling at me.
He's the Pac-Man champion, and he's beaten the whole level a couple of times, or maybe more than a couple of times, or maybe 1,000, or maybe 2,000, maybe Google. That's the highest number. Billy, numbers never stop, do they?
Bill is the best.
I'm the Dish Man. Dish Man dishes. Come to